Is it worth it to pull for Xinyan? The short answer is no. With an underwhelming kit and a lack of a clear goal for the character's purpose in the game, she doesn't really stand out as a good fit for any team. But even with that in mind, and you still like her style and want her, here are a few tips to help you out with your builds. First, Xinyan is either a main DPS or a sub DPS, depending on how you're going to build her. That matters because they make for two completely different playstyles. I particularly don't like main DPS Xinyan, but here's how you would build her. Let's start off with weapons. The prototype archaic has to be the best free-to-play option for this build. With a nice base attack of 565 and an attack substat of 27.6%, it's a great fit. And with a pretty good passive. On hit, normal and charge attack has a 50% chance to deal an additional 480% attack damage to opponents on a small AoE. This at refinement rank 5. Another pretty good fit would be the luxurious Sea Lord, with less base attack at 455 but a greater substat attack stat of 55.1%. It also has a much better passive, increasing your burst damage by 24%, and when burst hits opponents there is an 100% chance of summoning an onrush of Tuna that deals 200% of attack as an AoE damage. A good 5-star fit has to be the Wolf's Gravestone, with an attack stat of 608 and a substat of attack at 49.6%. With also another great passive, increasing your attack by 20%, and on-hit attacks against opponents with less than 30% HP, increases all party members' attack by 40% for 12 seconds. But the best fit for DPS Xinyan has to be the Song of Broken Pines, with a really high attack stat of 704 and a good physical damage bonus substat at 20.7%. For DPS Xinyan, you're really going to want to focus on physical damage because that's what she's going to do most. So this substat is pretty amazing. With an amazing passive, increasing your attack by 16%, and when normal and charge attack hits opponents, the character gains a Sigil of Whispers. This effect can be triggered once every 0.3 seconds. When you possess 4 Sigils of Whispers, all of them will be consumed and nearby party members will obtain the Millennial's Movement banner, which lasts for 12 seconds. This buff increases your normal attack speed by 12% and your attack by 20%. Once the effect triggers, you won't be able to get any stacks for the Sigils of Whispers for 20 seconds. So you have about 8 seconds of downtime. Now, for artifacts. A good 4-piece set for DPS Xinyan has to be the 4-set piece for Pale Flame, increasing your physical damage by 25% in a 2-piece, and when an elemental skill hits an opponent, attack is increased by 9% for 7 seconds. This effect stacks up to 2 times and can be triggered once every 0.3 seconds. Once 2 stacks are reached, the 2-set effect is increased by 100%. However, getting the 2-piece to actually work is going to take a different weapon, like the Sacrificial Sword, because your skill actually takes a little bit longer than 7 seconds to come up. So in my opinion, a better set would be a 2-piece set of Bloodstained Chivalry and a 2-piece set of Pale Flame. That way you have 2 2-piece sets of physical damage bonus at 25%. If you don't have that, having one 2-piece set of physical damage from Bloodstained Chivalry or Pale Flame is fine. You can then combo that with a 2-piece set of Gladiator or any artifact that has an 18% plus attack stat. Now for the circlet, you want to prioritize critical damage or critical rate depending on what you need more of. For the goblet, you're going to want to go with physical damage, but attack also works, but not to the same degree. And finally for your sands, has to be just attack. Now, for Xinyan's best supports, you're going to want to go with anyone who is Electro and Cryo, because you want to activate the set bonuses of Superconduct, which decreases your opponent's physical resistance. This is really sad for Xinyan since she's a Pyro character, so she's going to need help from either of those 2 elements from someone else. Good characters for Cryo has to be Diona and Rosaria, since they can apply Cryo pretty fast. For Electro, it has to be either Fischl or Raiden. Now for your 4th support, you really don't need someone that special. If you already have Diona in your team, you don't need a healer, so something like Xingqiu or Bennett, mostly, will definitely improve your damage. Now for support Xinyan, you can place her in a few different ways. You can either make her a sub DPS, making her hit big with her ultimate, or you can make her a shielder, giving her a good shield keep up where you can play around building the fence, using your elemental skill and burst to have 100% uptime on your shield. I personally like a hybrid of these 2 builds and opt for both. And here is how you can do that. First, for burst DPS Xinyan, you don't actually need to change a lot of a build from main DPS Xinyan. The only difference is, you might want to go for a little bit more energy recharge than anything else. Also, you might want to have her at C2, but Rift's Revolution, which is her ultimate, has her physical damage crit rate increased by 100%, and will perform a shield that is level 3 when cast. This means not only will you have the highest shield right after your ultimate, but your ultimate is always going to hit for crits. This way you can only focus on critical damage because you don't need crit rate at all. And I would suggest changing your sands into energy recharge, that way you will have your ultimate up all the time. Now, for support Xinyan, you're going to want to build more defense than anything else. So, for your weapons, having White Blind is probably your best bet. With a nice base attack of 510 and a really good defense disposition of 51.7%. The passive doesn't really help that much because you're not really going to be using normal or charged attacks at all, but they do increase your attack and defense by 6% and a maximum of 4 stacks. Other really good fits are going to be the Favonius Greatsword for energy recharge, and Sacrificial Greatsword for the same reason. And in the topic of energy recharge, the best 5-star fit has to be the Skyward Pride. And if you're wondering, I do not think that the Unforged actually works, even though the passive increases your shield by 20%. Because you're dealing with more attack, it doesn't actually increase any of Xinyan's shields, so it doesn't really matter. Now, for your circlet on this build, you are going to want to go defense, critical damage, or crit rate, depending on what you need more of. However, again, if you have C2 Xinyan, you don't need to go for critical rate. The goblet is going to be physical damage or defense if you want a bigger shield, and physical damage if you want to hit bigger with your ult. And sands can be attack, defense, or energy recharge. I would personally not go for attack and go for defense. Now, the debate between defense and energy recharge just comes up on what kind of weapon you are using with Xinyan. If your weapon has energy recharge, then defense is the way to go. But if your weapon has defense, then energy recharge would be the best fit. Now, in this state, Xinyan is a support, so she can fit into pretty much any team at this point. But, since her constellations add a little bit more of a backbone, I would say that she probably works best with Eula, because one of her constellations decreases enemies' physical resistance by 15%, which is very helpful when Eula only does physical damage. However, because she is a shielder, she does work well as a secondary pyro unit to your other team on the Abyss, since you can only use Bennett in one team. That way, with a secondary pyro unit, you can unlock the 25% attack boost that you get from putting 2 pyro elemental characters in your team. And that is going to be it. I'm going to be making quick and easy to follow guides in the future, so if you want more, like and subscribe. So now, thank you all very much for watching, and goodbye.